Every night while we sleep, we surrender ourselves to the unknown. We close our eyes, unaware of the hidden battles that take place as we rest. But what if I told you that there's a protector who watches over you, not just in the waking world, but in the realm of your dreams, a being so powerful, so unwavering, that no force of darkness can stand against it? This protector is none other than Archangel Michael, the mighty warrior, the one who guards not only our physical bodies, but our very souls. It's easy to forget that our dreams are more than just random images and stories. They're messages, they're signs, they're opportunities for transformation. Yet, how many of us have felt lost in the chaos of life, overwhelmed by fear, regret, or self-doubt? How many times have we woken up feeling the weight of yesterday's struggles hanging over us, unsure of where to go next? This is where Michael steps in. His presence is not just a fleeting thought. It is a guiding force that brings clarity, courage, and peace in the midst of turmoil. Imagine for a moment that every time you close your eyes, Michael is there, standing by your side, preparing you for the challenges ahead. You are not alone in your dreams. He is there to protect you from the unseen dangers that lurk in the shadows, to help you face the deepest fears you carry within. His guidance isn't just about shielding you from harm. It's about showing you the path forward when you feel lost. It's about helping you break free from the chains of uncertainty and showing you how to trust yourself again. What if, instead of dreading the night, you could embrace it as a time of healing and revelation? What if every dream was an opportunity to confront your fears, to learn and grow, with Michael by your side leading the way? In this story, we'll explore how Michael doesn't just protect us in our sleep, but how he teaches us to overcome the obstacles in our hearts and minds. This isn't just about a guardian angel, it's about finding the strength within ourselves, with Michael's help, to face our greatest challenges and emerge victorious. So, close your eyes and imagine Michael's light guiding you through the dark. Because when you understand the power of his protection and guidance in your dreams, you'll realize that you are capable of far more than you ever imagined. Section 1. The first encounter with Michael. It was a quiet evening, like so many others. The world outside seemed still, the kind of stillness that comes when the sun dips below the horizon and the shadows grow longer. Elena had just finished her evening routine, feeling the weight of the day press on her shoulders. She was no different from anyone else, a person who had known her fair share of heartaches, struggles, and the quiet isolation that comes from living a life full of unanswered questions. Life had worn her down, but like many of us, she kept moving forward, day by day, as best as she could. That night, as she lay in her bed, staring up at the ceiling, the thought of sleep felt like a burden more than a comfort. It had been a long time since she had slept soundly. Anxiety always crept in as soon as she closed her eyes, pulling her into a restless fog of fears and worries. What if she never found peace again? What if tomorrow would be just as hard as today? She sighed deeply, letting the exhaustion wash over her, and eventually drifted into a fitful sleep. But this night was different. In the quiet of her dreams, Elena found herself standing in the middle of a vast golden field. The air was thick with the scent of fresh flowers, and the sky above her glowed with a soft, unearthly light. She had no idea how she had gotten there, but the peacefulness of the place seemed to soothe her troubled mind. As she took a few steps forward, she felt an overwhelming sense of calm, like all the worries that had plagued her for so long had simply disappeared. Then, in the distance, she saw him, a figure cloaked in brilliant light, standing tall and resolute. At first, she thought it was a dream, just another fantasy her weary mind had conjured up. But as she watched him, she knew deep down that this wasn't just another dream. This was real. The figure began to approach her, and as he drew closer, Elena could feel an energy like nothing she had ever experienced before. It wasn't just the light that surrounded him. It was the power and warmth that radiated from him, making her feel safe, as if no harm could reach her while he stood there. "Do not be afraid, Elena," the figure spoke, his voice like a deep, reassuring thunder that echoed through her very being. She blinked in disbelief, unsure of what she was hearing. Who are you?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper in the vastness of the field. "I am Michael, the one who guards the children of God," the figure replied, his presence both calming and powerful. "I have come to watch over you." Elena felt her heart race. She had heard the name before, in stories, in prayers, but she never imagined she would be face to face with him. Michael, the Archangel, the protector of souls. How can you help me?" she asked, her voice trembling. Michael looked at her with eyes full of compassion. "It is not about what I can do for you, Elena. It is about what you can do for yourself when you have the strength to face the fear that holds you captive. I am here to guide you, to show you that you are never alone, even in your darkest moments." Elena's mind raced with questions. But how can I overcome this? How can I break free from this feeling of being lost? Michael's smile was gentle, almost as if he understood the weight of her heartache. "You are already on the path. You just need to trust it, and trust yourself." The moment those words left his lips, Elena felt something shift inside her. A spark of hope, faint but real, began to flicker in her chest. It was a feeling she hadn't had in so long. The belief that maybe, just maybe, she could find peace again. Before she could say anything else, Michael stepped closer. He extended his hand toward her, and the warmth that radiated from his palm was like nothing she had ever felt. "Rest now," he said, "and know that I am watching over you. In your dreams, I will guide you. In your waking hours, you must find your own strength." As his words echoed in her mind, Elena woke up, her heart pounding. But this time, it wasn't out of fear. It was something new, something she hadn't felt in years. A glimmer of faith, a small but powerful seed of hope that maybe, just maybe, there was a way forward. That night, Elena slept soundly for the first time in ages. And in her dreams, Michael's presence lingered, gentle yet unwavering, just as he had promised. Section 2. The challenges from Michael. The weeks passed, and Elena's life began to shift in small, almost imperceptible ways. She had begun to look forward to sleep again, not with dread, but with a sense of anticipation. Every night, as she drifted off, she knew that she wasn't alone in her dreams. Michael was there, watching over her, guiding her through the unseen struggles of her heart. But what she didn't yet understand was that his protection wasn't just about offering comfort or peace. It was about teaching her something deeper, something far more powerful than simply feeling safe. One evening, as the sun set in the sky, Elena felt unusually restless. She had spent the day sorting through old letters, memories of the past that she had tucked away for years, the grief of losing her husband, the regret over things left unsaid, the loneliness that crept in at night. It was all coming back to her in waves. That night, as she lay in bed, she knew her mind would be heavy with thoughts. She had become so used to this, the quiet turmoil that would steal her sleep, that she almost expected it. But this time, as she closed her eyes, there was no restless tossing and turning. Instead, she fell into a deep sleep almost immediately. And when she awoke, she found herself standing in the same golden field. But this time, something was different. The atmosphere was still, but there was a tension in the air, as if something important was about to happen. And there, standing before her once again, was Michael. His presence was as strong and reassuring as before, but his eyes were filled with a quiet intensity. "Elena," he said, his voice steady and calm, "you've come far, but the road ahead requires something more from you. There is still fear within you that must be faced." Elena's heart sank. She had thought, perhaps foolishly, that just the presence of the Archangel would be enough to take away the pain. But now, standing in front of Michael, she realized something important. The healing she sought wasn't going to come from avoiding the struggles of life. It would come from facing them, head on, with courage. "I don't understand," Elena replied, her voice shaky. "How can I face what hurts me so much, the past? It haunts me. Every day, every night, I carry it with me." Michael nodded solemnly. "It is natural to carry the weight of your past, Elena, but it is also necessary to let go of the chains that bind you. You cannot move forward while holding on to the pain." Before she could respond, the ground beneath her feet shifted, and suddenly a dark shadow loomed in the distance. It was like a great storm cloud, swirling and dark, with sharp, jagged edges. Elena instinctively took a step back, feeling the familiar grip of fear tighten around her chest. "What is that?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "That," Michael said, "is your fear. It takes many forms, but it is always rooted in the past. It keeps you bound, unwilling to step into the future." Elena could feel her heart racing, her body tense. "I don't know if I can face it," she said, trembling. Michael's gaze softened. "You do not have to do this alone, Elaine, but you must stand firm. The storm will not last forever, and with each step you take toward it, the power it has over you will lessen." Elena looked at the dark cloud once more, and in that moment she realized that the fear she had been carrying for so long wasn't just something that lurked in her past. It was a living, breathing part of her that had grown over the years, feeding on her doubts and insecurities. But now she had a choice. She could let it control her, or she could face it, just as Michael had said. Taking a deep breath, Elena stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. With every step she took, the storm seemed to grow less menacing, the edges softening, the shadows fading. It wasn't gone, not yet, but it was no longer a force that could paralyze her. As she reached the center of the storm, she saw that it wasn't really a storm at all. It was simply a shadow, an illusion that had grown in her mind over the years. "See, Elena," Michael's voice was calm and steady. "The fear was never as great as you imagined. It is only your belief in it that gives it power." With that, the cloud dissipated, leaving behind only clear skies and the soft glow of the sun. Elena stood there, her breath steadying, feeling lighter than she had in years. It wasn't that the fear was gone entirely, but it no longer had the power to control her. Michael approached her once again, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You've done well. This is only the beginning, Elena. The path ahead may still be difficult, but you are no longer walking it alone." Elena woke up, the light of the early morning streaming through her window, her heart filled with a peace she hadn't known in a long time. She had faced her fear not because it was gone, but because she had the strength to stand against it. And for the first time in a long while, she felt hopeful about what the future might hold. Section 3. Finding the path forward. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing night, Elena felt a subtle transformation within herself. She wasn't entirely sure what it was or where it would lead, but something inside her had shifted. Her steps were a little lighter, her heart a little less burdened. The fears she had carried for so long were still there, like old shadows in the corners of her mind, but they no longer gripped her with the same power. She had seen them for what they were, illusions, not to be feared but understood and faced. One night, as Elena lay in bed, the familiar sense of peace from her dreams seemed to surround her once more. She was ready for whatever challenge awaited her. This time, though, she wasn't just hoping for comfort. She was seeking answers. She had asked herself many questions over the years, questions about her purpose, about what she was meant to do now with the years ahead of her. But those questions had always been drowned out by the weight of her grief, her regret, and her fear of failure. Tonight, she was determined to face them head on. As she drifted off to sleep, the golden field appeared again, more vivid than ever before. The scent of flowers filled the air, and the light from above seemed warmer, more inviting. Elena stepped forward, her feet no longer hesitant but steady. She had learned, over the course of her dreams, that she didn't need to wait for peace to come to her. She could walk toward it, and with each step she took, the world around her seemed to open up, like a door unlocking. Then she saw him again, Michael, standing tall and strong as always, radiating light and power. This time his expression was different. There was no urgency in his gaze, no challenge, only a quiet assurance. Elena felt that this moment was different. This time, she was ready. "Elena," Michael's voice resonated within her, as if the words were not only heard but understood deep within her soul. "You've faced your fear. You've learned to stand in the storm. Now it's time to see the path ahead of you clearly." She nodded, though she wasn't sure what he meant. She had faced her past. She had stepped beyond her fears. But what was next? What was the path? The path to what? You've asked the right questions, but the answers, Elena, are within you. Michael continued. What you seek is not outside of you. It never was. The answers to your purpose, your joy, your peace, they have always been part of you. You just needed to remember. Elena stood in silence for a moment, absorbing his words. How many years had she spent searching for something outside herself? How many times had she looked to others, to the world around her, hoping for someone to tell her what to do, to guide her, to give her purpose? She had forgotten that the answers had always been there, buried deep within her own heart, waiting to be uncovered. Look, Michael said gently, gesturing toward the horizon of the golden field. Elena turned to see a path stretching out before her, winding through the tall grass, bathed in the soft light. It wasn't a straight path, but a winding road that led to places unknown. And yet, it felt right. It felt like home. Your purpose is not one single moment or decision, Michael explained. It is the journey you walk each day. It is the small steps of courage you take, the choices you make to rise above your fears, to embrace love, kindness, and faith. The path may not always be clear, but it will always be yours to walk. A feeling of calm washed over Elena, a deep sense of peace that filled the space inside her heart where there had once been doubt and confusion. She didn't need to have all the answers. She didn't need to know every step of the journey. All she needed was to trust in herself, to trust in the path before her, and to take each step with faith, knowing that she was never truly alone. Michael's presence grew stronger, his light enveloping her like a warm embrace. Remember, Elena, you do not walk this path alone. Every step you take, I will be with you, guiding you when you falter, cheering you on when you succeed. But ultimately, the strength you need is already inside you. The field around them seemed to shimmer, and the sky above glowed with a soft, golden light, as if the world itself was breathing in time with Elena's heart. She looked ahead at the path that stretched out before her, and for the first time in years, she felt a sense of purpose. It wasn't the grand, overwhelming purpose she had once imagined, but a quiet, simple one, the purpose of living fully in each moment, of embracing the journey ahead with courage and grace. And just before she woke, Michael's voice rang out one final time, calm and reassuring. You are enough, Elena. The path is yours. Walk it with faith. Section 4. A path illuminated by faith. The days grew longer, and Elena's life began to change in ways she hadn't expected. There were no sudden bursts of excitement, no grand revelations, just quiet, steady transformations. The small moments, the ones she used to overlook, now seemed to carry deeper meaning. The morning sun filtering through the curtains, the soft hum of the world as it woke up, the simple act of breathing deeply, feeling the air fill her lungs. Everything felt different, more alive. Each day, Elena found herself walking through life with a new kind of awareness. She was no longer simply reacting to the events around her, swept along by the currents of her past. Now she made decisions with a sense of purpose. She wasn't chasing after answers. Not anymore. Ashkma. The answers she had been looking for had already begun to settle into her heart, slow and steady, like a river finding its course. And with those answers came a sense of peace. Yet, despite the sense of calm, there were still moments when the shadows of her past crept back into her thoughts, reminders of the years filled with pain and loss. There were days when Elena found herself wondering if she was truly ready to let go of everything that had weighed her down. Could she really leave behind the grief, the guilt, and the regrets that had become such familiar companions? It was one such day, as the sun began to set and the world outside her window turned golden, that Elena found herself drifting back into the field of her dreams. This time, the air felt different, more still, more serene. She had learned to embrace these moments in her dreams, but this night felt like something deeper was unfolding. She wasn't just here for guidance, she was here for something more. Michael stood at the edge of the field, his presence as strong and steady as always. This time, there was no urgency in his steps, no looming challenge. His gaze was calm, filled with the wisdom that only comes with the knowledge of eternity. When Elena stepped forward to meet him, he smiled, a smile that seemed to hold centuries of understanding. "Elena," he said softly, as though speaking directly to the very core of her being, "you've come far, but the journey is not yet complete. The path ahead is still waiting for you, and it is one that only you can walk." She nodded, feeling a gentle pull in her chest, a mixture of anticipation and uncertainty. "But I don't know if I can keep going. What if I falter? What if the fear comes back?" Michael's eyes softened, and he took a step closer. "There will be times, Elena, when the road feels uncertain. There will be moments when doubt creeps in, when you wonder if you're truly on the right path. But remember, this faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is the courage to move forward in spite of it." Elena paused, her heart heavy with the truth of those words. For so long, she had believed that faith meant never feeling doubt, never feeling fear. She had always imagined that if she were truly strong, the struggles would simply vanish. But Michael was teaching her something different, that faith wasn't the absence of darkness, but the willingness to step into it with trust in the light. "You have already proven that you have the strength to face your past, to confront your fears." Michael continued, his voice warm and steady. "Now it is time to trust that you have the strength to walk the path ahead. Each step, no matter how small, will lead you closer to the peace you seek." The wind stirred around them, carrying with it the faint sound of music, soft, familiar, as if the world itself was harmonizing with the beat of her heart. Elena took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle into her soul. She wasn't walking this path alone. She had never been alone. And even in the darkest of moments, Michael's guidance would be not as a crutch, but as a steady presence, a reminder that she was always supported, always held. As she looked ahead, the path that stretched before her seemed clearer than ever. It wasn't just a path through the field. It was the path of her life, winding through the choices, the challenges, the quiet victories. It was a path of faith in herself, faith in the wisdom of the journey, and faith in the guiding light that would always lead her home. "Elena," Michael said once more, his voice gentle but filled with authority, "the future may be uncertain, but your heart is strong. Walk with faith, and you will find the way." And with those words, Elena knew that the fear she had once carried was no longer something that could hold her back. The weight had shifted, and though it wasn't completely gone, it had become lighter, more manageable. She could now see the world around her with new eyes, not through the lens of fear and doubt, but through the lens of possibility. The path before her wasn't just about the destination, it was about the journey itself, and the peace that came with trusting in each step, no matter where it led. As she awoke from the dream, the morning light filled the room, and for the first time in many years, Elena felt as though she was waking into a new chapter. The path ahead was no longer something to fear. It was a path of growth, of learning, of embracing the beauty in the unknown. She didn't have all the answers, but she didn't need them. All she needed was the faith to take the next step and the courage to keep walking. Section 5. The strength found in each step. As the days drifted into weeks, Elena felt an inner quietness settle over her, like the calm after a storm. The world outside her window, once so overwhelming, now seemed softer, gentler. She no longer moved through her life with the heavy burden of uncertainty hanging over her. Each day, she woke up with a sense of purpose, not because the world had suddenly become easier, but because she had learned to see it with new eyes. But there were still moments, still times when doubt would creep in like an old friend, reminding her of the fears and uncertainties she had carried for so long. There were days when the past would return to haunt her old memories, old regrets, the feeling that she hadn't done enough, hadn't been enough. But now Elena understood something she hadn't before. Those moments of doubt didn't have to define her. They didn't have to stop her from moving forward. The path she was on wasn't about avoiding those shadows. It was about learning how to walk through them with grace, with strength. One evening, as she sat in her favorite chair by the window, watching the last rays of sunlight slip below the horizon, Elena felt a familiar pull. She knew it wasn't just the quiet of the evening or the peacefulness of the moment. It was Michael, calling her once more into the field of her dreams. She had grown to look forward to these nightly visits, not just for the comfort they brought, but because they reminded her of the deeper truths she had begun to rediscover within herself. As her eyelids fluttered closed, she found herself once again standing in the golden field. The soft hum of the world seemed to wrap around her like a warm embrace. But this time, the atmosphere was different. The air felt alive with purpose, as if something new was about to unfold. And there, standing before her, was Michael. His presence was as strong and reassuring as always. But now there was something else in his eyes, something that told Elena she was about to take another step in her journey. "Elena," Michael said, his voice steady, "you have walked far, but there is still more ahead of you. The path is long, and sometimes the way forward may seem unclear. But remember this, the strength to keep moving comes not from knowing what lies ahead, but from trusting that you will have the courage to face it, no matter what." Elena nodded slowly, taking in his words. She had learned so much, and yet she knew there was still more to understand. She had faced her fears, and now she was walking the path of faith. But there were still days when it felt hard to take the next step, days when the weight of her past seemed to linger. "But what if I falter?" Elena asked, the question rising from deep within her. "What if the fear comes back, and I can't keep going?" Michael looked at her, his gaze filled with the kind of understanding that only time and experience could bring. "You will falter, Elena, you will stumble. It is part of the journey, but remember this faltering does not mean you have failed. Every step, even the ones that feel like setbacks, is part of your growth. And when you stumble, you will rise again. Just as the sun sets each night and rises again in the morning, so too will you rise." Elena felt a deep sense of peace in his words. It was true, Chia. She had stumbled many times before. There had been moments in her life when she thought she couldn't get up again. But now, with each new day, she found herself rising, stronger than before. The golden field around her shimmered with the soft light of the setting sun, and Michael extended his hand to her, his touch warm and steady. "The path before you may not always be clear, and the road may twist and turn in ways you didn't expect. But remember, Elena, each step you take is an act of faith. Each choice you make, each moment you live is a step toward healing, toward peace." Elena looked at the path that stretched out before her. It wasn't a straight, smooth road. It was a winding journey, filled with both light and shadows. But as she stood there, she realized that the road itself was not the point. The point was in the walking. The point was in the faith it took to take that first step, and then the next, and then the next. Even when the road seemed uncertain, even when the weight of the past seemed too heavy, she knew now that each step was a victory in itself. As Michael's words echoed in her heart, Elena knew that she was ready to face whatever lay ahead. She wasn't walking the path alone. She had learned that the strength she needed was already inside her, waiting to be called upon. And as she looked down the road, she saw not just the obstacles, but the possibilities, the opportunities for growth, for love, for joy. "You are not meant to walk this path alone, Elena," Michael said softly, his voice full of warmth. "I will always be here, guiding you. But it is you who must take the steps. It is you who must choose to move forward." With that, Elena woke up, the morning light shining through her window. She sat up, feeling the weight of the night's dream still in her heart. The path was still before her, still uncertain, still winding. But now it didn't matter. She had the courage to take each step, knowing that even in the moments when she faltered, she would rise again. She was ready. Section 6. The peace found in letting go. As the seasons passed, Elena continued her journey quietly, steadily, and with more grace than she had ever thought possible. The days, once filled with an endless cycle of worry and regret, now unfolded before her like pages in a book that she was eager to read. Life still had its challenges. There were days when the weight of the world felt heavier than others, when the old memories still tried to creep in and take hold. But now, Elena faced in those days with a strength that she had never known she had. She had learned that it wasn't about erasing the past, but about finding peace with it. One evening, after a long day of tending to the garden in the soft warmth of the setting sun, Elena sat on the porch, a cup of tea warming her hands. The evening air was cool, the sky painted with shades of orange and pink, and the sounds of birds preparing for the night were the perfect soundtrack to her thoughts. For the first time in a long time, Elena felt at ease. Her heart, once a battleground of fear, grief, and doubt, now felt open like a door gently swaying in the wind, ready to embrace whatever life had yet to offer. It was then that she felt the familiar pull, the invitation to join Michael in her dreams once more. Each time she entered the field, she knew it was more than just a dream. It was a place of learning, of growing, and of remembering things that had been long buried beneath the surface of her waking life. She closed her eyes, letting herself relax into the comfort of sleep, knowing that she would once again be guided. This time, when Elena opened her eyes, she was standing in the golden field, as she had so many times before. But tonight it felt different. The air was thicker with a sense of tranquility. There was no rush, no sense of urgency. The moment was full of stillness, as though the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for her to take the next step. And then she saw him, Michael, standing in the same place where he had always been. But now there was something new in his expression. It was a look of quiet satisfaction, as though he knew that something important was about to happen. Elena, Michael's voice called, soft but full of power. You have walked far. You have faced your fears, and you have learned to trust in the path. But now it is time for you to let go. Elena felt a rush of emotion at his words, a mixture of confusion and something else, something deep within her that stirred, as if she had been waiting for these words all along. Let go, Elena asked, her voice filled with a quiet uncertainty. But how can I? I have carried these burdens for so long. The grief, the regret, the memories they have been with me every day. How do I simply let go? Michael smiled gently, his eyes filled with compassion. You are not meant to carry those burdens forever. Elena, they have served their purpose. They have taught you lessons, helped you grow. But now they are no longer yours to bear. It is time to release them. You do not have to hold on to the past in order to move forward. The future, the peace you seek, lies in the freedom of letting go. Elena stood still, her heart heavy with the weight of those words. She had spent so many years holding on to the pain, to the loss, to the things she wished she had done differently. She had believed for so long that without those memories, without that history, she would be lost. But now, and Michael was telling her that peace could only come when she let them go. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. Elena, Michael continued, it means accepting that the past is a part of you, but it does not define you. It means trusting that the future holds something greater for you, something better. If you are willing to release the hold the past has over you. Elena took a deep breath, feeling a shift within her. She had always thought of herself as a person defined by her past, by the choices she had made, the losses she had endured, and the pain she had carried. But now, standing before Michael, she realized that she could choose to no longer let those things control her. They could be a part of her story. Yes, but they did not have to be the whole story. The rest of the book was hers to write. Slowly, but almost as if the very act of letting go was a physical release, Elena felt the weight in her chest begin to lighten. The grief, the regret, they were still there, but they no longer felt like chains. They no longer held her in place. They had been with her for so long, but she could see now that they didn't need to be. Michael's smile widened as he watched her. You have already taken the first step, he said softly. And with each step, the peace you seek will grow stronger. Elena nodded, a quiet tear slipping down her cheek. But it wasn't a tear of sorrow, it was a tear of release, of relief. For the first time in years, she felt lighter. She could feel the future ahead of her, not as a daunting unknown, but as a space filled with possibility. The past would always be a part of her, but it no longer had to weigh her down. She was free. As the field around her began to shimmer, the golden light softening into a gentle twilight, Elena felt Michael's presence close around her, like a warm embrace, remember. Elena, peace comes not from what you have lost, but from what you choose to hold on to. Hold on to love. Hold on to faith. Hold on to the belief that tomorrow will be better than today. When Elena awoke, the world was quiet, the first light of morning shining through the window. She sat up, a smile gently tugging at the corners of her lips. The path ahead was still there, still uncertain in many ways, but now she knew that she was walking it with peace in her heart, and with the understanding that the past no longer defined her. She had let go, and in letting go, she had found the strength to move forward. Section 7. The Final Awakening. As Elena's journey through the field of dreams continued, there was a sense of finality in the air. Though she didn't yet know it, her heart had been heavy with old fears. But over time, those fears had become lighter, like clouds drifting away from the morning sky. With each passing night, Michael had helped her discover deeper truths about herself, teaching her the strength that lay within, and showing her that peace didn't come from the absence of difficulty, but from facing it with faith and trust. But tonight, there was something different. There was no gentle pull of comfort, no soft hum in the air. Instead, Elena felt an unexpected calm, as if all the questions that had once filled her mind had been answered, and all the uncertainties that had clung to her heart had been laid to rest. She closed her eyes, settling into her bed, the familiar feeling of the dream world pulling her into sleep. As she entered the dream realm, Elena noticed something she hadn't before this time. The golden field was no longer vast and empty. It was full of life, with birds singing sweetly in the trees and flowers blooming all around her, vibrant and alive in a way they hadn't been before. The air was warm, filled with the promise of something new. And there, standing at the edge of the field, was Michael. This time, his presence was calm, not a guiding force, but a presence of quiet assurance, as though he was simply waiting for Elena to take the next step. "Elena," he said softly, his voice steady and knowing, "you've come far. You've learned to let go, to trust, to walk through your fears. But now, it is time for you to see the greatest truth of all." Elena stepped forwards, her heart filled with a gentle anticipation. She no longer feared what was to come. The doubts that had once whispered to her, telling her she wasn't enough or that she couldn't overcome her struggles, had long since quieted. Instead, she felt only a quiet strength, like a river flowing steadily through her soul. "What truth?" Elena asked, her voice soft with curiosity. Michael's smile was kind, his eyes filled with wisdom. "The truth is that you are never truly alone, Elena, not in your dreams, not in your waking life. The love and strength you have been searching for are within you, always. You carry them with you, and you always have. My presence was never meant to be a crutch, but a reminder that you have always had everything you need." Elena paused, letting his words sink in. For so long, she had sought something outside of herself, a source of strength, a guide to show her the way. But now she realized the answer she had been searching for had been within her all along. She had only needed to trust in herself, to believe that she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. Michael continued, his voice gentle yet firm. "You've learned to face the storms, Elena. But remember, peace does not come from avoiding them. Peace comes from knowing that you have the strength to weather them, and that you are never alone." A quiet realization washed over Elena. She had feared the future for so long, worried about what might lie ahead. But she now understood that the future wasn't something to be feared. It was something to be embraced, step by step, with faith in herself and in the knowledge that she had everything she needed to face whatever came her way. As she stood there in the field, surrounded by the beauty of nature and the warmth of Michael's presence, Elena felt a profound sense of peace settle within her. It wasn't the kind of peace that came from avoiding difficulties. It was the peace that came from accepting life as it was, with all its twists and turns, and knowing that she had the inner strength to face whatever came next. Michael stepped closer, his hand outstretched toward her. "You are ready now, Elena, ready to live fully, to embrace the journey ahead with open arms. The dream and its lessons, are now yours to carry into the waking world. Elena felt a surge of gratitude, not just for Michael, but for herself. She had come so far, and now she was ready to take the next step. The dream world had served its purpose. It had been a place of healing, a place of understanding, but now the real journey was about to begin. It was time to awaken. With a deep breath, Elena stepped forward, taking Michael's hand, and in that moment, she knew that she was no longer the woman who had entered the field of dreams all those months ago. She had transformed, and now she was ready to step into the light of a new day. As she awoke, the first rays of dawn broke through her window, and Elena felt the quiet joy of a heart at peace. The lessons of the dream world had followed her into the waking world, and she carried them with her like a beacon, guiding her every step. She was ready for whatever lay ahead, and she knew, without a doubt, that she was never truly alone. Her journey had just begun. Conclusion. A new day, a new path. As the days continued to unfold, Elena walked with a calm assurance that had not been there before. The lessons she had learned in the quiet of the night, in the dreams that Michael had guided her through, began to settle deeply within her. Each morning felt different now. The sun that rose each day no longer seemed just like any other sunrise. It felt like a promise, a fresh beginning. The weight she had once carried, the doubts, the fears, the old regrets, they no longer defined her. Instead, she felt a soft, steady warmth from within, one that assured her that she was capable of facing whatever lay ahead. Elena had spent much of her life searching for meaning, for answers, for peace. She had looked outwardly for something to fill the empty spaces within her, whether it was in the success she sought, the approval she needed, or the love she wished she could receive. But what she had discovered, through those quiet dreams and through Michael's steady guidance, was that the answers she had been searching for had always been within her. The strength, the wisdom, and the peace she had longed for were not things to be found outside of herself. They were already there, waiting for her to acknowledge them. It wasn't that life had suddenly become easy or without challenge. No, Elena knew well that life would continue to have its ups and downs. There would be days when the world seemed too much to bear, when old memories tried to surface, or when the future seemed uncertain. But now she understood something deeper, that those moments did not define her. What defined her was how she chose to respond, how she chose to move forward with trust, faith, and the quiet knowledge that she was not alone. In the stillness of the evenings, when the world grew quiet, Elena found herself sitting on the porch once again, watching the sky change colors as the sun dipped below the horizon. The peace that filled her heart was not a fleeting thing. It was a deep, abiding peace that had taken root within her, a peace she carried with her, even when the world seemed uncertain. She had learned, through her dreams with Michael, that peace was not the absence of difficulties, it was the courage to face them. Peace was not something given to her. It was something she had claimed, something she had earned by trusting herself, by trusting the process of life, and by learning that every step, even the faltering ones, brought her closer to the person she was meant to be. Elena had come to understand that life was not a race, nor was it a perfect journey. It was a series of moments, some of joy, some of sorrow, and all of them part of a greater whole. The key was in how she lived those moments with presence, with gratitude, and with the knowledge that each day, no matter how small, was a step forward. And in the quiet of her heart, Elena knew she was ready for whatever came next. The road ahead was still long, still unknown, but she didn't fear it anymore. She had learned that it was okay not to have all the answers, that sometimes the beauty of life was in the mystery, in the journey itself. And as long as she walked with faith and trust in herself, the path would always be there, unfolding before her, one step at a time. The dreams with Michael had ended, but the lessons from those dreams would stay with her forever. In those dreams, she had discovered the truth of her own strength, the depth of her own heart, and the power of choosing peace over fear. And now, in the waking world, she carried those lessons with her, every step of the way. As Elena sat quietly on her porch, watching the stars begin to twinkle in the night sky, she couldn't help but smile. She had come so far, and though the journey wasn't over, she had no doubt that she was ready for whatever it held. Life had shown her that the greatest gift she could give herself was the gift of living fully in each moment, trusting in her ability to move forward, and knowing that she was never alone. The path ahead was hers to walk, and she would walk it with love, with courage, and with the peace that she had found within herself. And summoned with a heart full of hope and a spirit ready for whatever the future held, Elena closed her eyes once more, not with fear, but with the quiet joy of someone who had found their way.